took your names down. I didn't bring it over, and I can go back. Just okay. Oh,
And if,
Again.
speaker.
No.
it's like an echo stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I love me some technology. Goodness gracious. Some days it works better than others. See how that works.
Right here.
Hmm?
Is anyone on there?
No. No.
Okay, ready.
Thank you. First of all, to be on the same page and everything, I guess right now what we're waiting for is, and we said we delayed as long as we want. We don't necessarily have a response back to the COVID MOU per se, but because it was something that we were looking to do as a part of it, we thought it might be easier to formalize it in terms of an MOU proposal. This is language that is an extra copy. Mark it down. Calling this current contract language that's in Lee County right now about how to address the monetary disbursement if there was to be coverage that took place. And I guess that's in terms of being able to talk through an idea, figure out exactly what it might look like in practice. We thought this would be at least a starting point. And we understand that the idea is that if this is something that is more full book thought of instead of as a COVID response, that we at least start somewhere, modify from it. And like other things, maybe it would be something we could implement to see how it works in practice, much like the teacher transfer period, to see if that's something that eventually needs to be codified within the full book.
Right, give sector.
We understand because it's a monetary thing and it's still something under advisement by the school board that, and they've already responded that it's something that will take some time to respond to. Since we've gotten together, there are some instances where we have already been dealing with some substitutes and coverage and being created at schools. I know that the process is taking place to get substitutes at schools, but the impact of it is still taking place. More importantly, individuals that are subbing, there are going to be some, in terms of practice, they can come in, but yet there's still, because of the technology, there's some difficulty in understanding exactly how to do some of the things, and teachers on their days off are being called about, sending additional sub plans for how to do certain things within the classroom that are functions of being a substitute these days.
Okay, so if a teacher is out for a known problem, there's always a sub plan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And even if they're not, there's usually a 10-day emergency plans that people will have put set aside so that there's coverage to make sure that there's at least some instruction that takes place.
Do any or all of these instructional staff in paragraph D currently sub if there's an emergency?
Yes.
All right.
Part of the concern right now with the individuals that are listed in that group is that we understand that there are some shortages in those areas. So caseloads are extremely high. And something that we're going to have to talk about at some point is some of the headhunting that's taking place for those individuals that are current employees that are receiving emails currently about making $20 more an hour by leaving Leon County schools and being hired independently by a school itself. So it costs more to the district to go about that route.
Right, some retire, contract, form a company, contract back to the district for 50, 60 bucks an hour. I've seen this all over the place.
Right, no,
And it is a losing proposition for us.
so in terms of a losing proposition, I guess the question is, does that mean that it is less expensive for us to look at stabilizing those groups by, when we get to full book, implementing some measures that recognize the growth in the caseloads they're dealing with, or are we spending more outsourcing and it's costing us more money? So
Some of it is a real shortage for a couple of these positions, and there's some companies that provide these services, and there's a variety of reasons, and some are just hard to find right now. They're just hard to find, but we understand the issue. I don't think stumping is the reason they're leaving. It's cash.
no, it's definitely cash, but in this case, when they have caseloads where they're having trouble meeting the needs of the students already to be for additional responsibilities, we're trying to protect those groups so that they could serve the students.
All right, I don't have any questions. Anybody? Okay.
So as we go to the Canvas MOU, in internal discussions, and things, that there are some concerns that we have, because from what we've talked to instructional staff, they are reaching out to other sources because individuals that would have this are teaching, and so they're not accessible during the course of the day. And so it's the help desk, it's other places that they're going to make sure that they get it, or the tech con. So there's not quite of an understanding of when this would take place and what the educational tool coach, an additional term that's not necessarily defined with the Canvas means. So those are kind of the two things we have had as concerns in terms of implementing. We understand and recognize that there are experts on site, But the access to them is part of the issue. How that would work out.
So are you asking us that, or are you saying that's the concern?
That's that these individuals are inaccessible to do the job that this says that it is stating at the time of need. And so because they may have a class size, class load, that they're not readily available to do that. And so what teachers really need is that real-time assistance when they're having those difficulties.
Okay, so I have a couple of,
Is that what this is supposed to, I guess, serve?
okay, so a couple of issues or one of my points I think I need to make or should make or offer rather is the fact that we have people who have supplement positions all throughout the district. Depending on if they're an academic coach, I'm just naming some, or can't give me some other ones. Team lead, department chair. There are times of the day that they're able to do that supplemental position. They may have to tell someone wait or come back, or they create the schedule for the school because it's based on, like you said, if they're teaching, then these are the times I'm ready. If you know, project out, you can plan. So I don't know that we can guarantee that these people would be, nor have I think we ever, and you did say this, said they have to be ready or available to teachers every time they reach out. I think if there's a concern regarding the support they need and the timing of it, they as the employee should set those parameters up saying, this is my free period, or I'm available from 1:50 to 2:30. It's up to them. I don't think we've ever told any, in terms of it having to be at a teacher's, you know, I know that when there's an issue right away. And you would hope, like in, I think your situation, your person is a halftime, that's ideal, but that's not.
It's a new person
Oh, okay. So I'm just, that's my first response. I don't think the district is thinking that this person has to be ready on the spot. I understand about needing support and calling other places. I don't know of anyone being, you know, when I say expert, I think knowledgeable enough to process through the Canvas concerns, and having that person directly working with them from the district, Denise Williams, I think has been a great tool of support for them. I'm not sure what is being shared with you all as it relates to it. You know, they're concerned about when they can reach out, needing help on the spot. I don't have that information. What we were trying to do was the persons who were considered to be the school designee that the principal had turned in and was working with teaching and learning, for lack of a better department, and working with the Canvas person for the district, that they would have some tools and some areas that they could reach out to someone for support. If you all feel as though that's not what's happening, you're sharing that with us, or if you want to do, that's fine, and we'll withdraw that. We were under the impression that there are designees at each school site that take the time to work with staff on concerns that deal with Canvas. Now, do they get everyone? Probably not. Are there some teachers that say, well, I asked 2 days ago, the person forgot to get back with me? All these extenuating circumstances I'm not aware of. But we know that last year it was so overwhelming for teachers, we wanted to make sure we had at least 2 at each site. And we know just because it's a new year doesn't mean all the issues are done. We wanted to continue with that. So I'm not sure what your expectation is for the supplement amount for someone to be at another teacher's. And I don't even want to say, like, I just kind of feel like as a teacher, if I had a concern, or Kim had a concern, she'd say, hey, can you drop by my room after school? I want to ask you about this. This didn't work for me today. I was in Canvas. And then that person could say, can we do it at this time? Like, professionally, they would work out, and that person would be assuming those additional responsibilities for the school. If they couldn't manage that, then they would share that with their principal, and we could find someone else for that school, or however you all recommend. It was not, I know, Kim, you referenced at the last meeting that you were concerned that everyone didn't have the same, or we didn't follow the contract language as it relates to potentially offering this as a supplement. And what I did not share was that the persons were vetted prior and worked with Denise on being selected for that school site and said they wanted to do it. There were some bumps in the road. You know, It was not opened up to everyone. So if you all want to say going forward, you want to make it part of I have no problem with that. It's however you all want to do it. I don't think there's any one person at any school site now that's released that would be able to go, answer every teacher's call every period of the day. But could they formally set up a schedule to work with that person to support them? Gosh, yes. Could they be required to offer certain times? Their middle school, maybe before school, if you may have an issue, or I think there's some flexibility there. But that should be the person who's assumed that responsibility to be able to kind of have some say into that. So we were trying to help, from my perspective, we were trying to assist the person who has decided to do it, who's meeting with the district liaison. We are trying to recognize their efforts to support their school.
How long is the campus contract? Like, how long does it buy into the campus system? Is it indefinitely?
I have no idea. I don't know offhand.
I just know from other districts, it is the newest, latest,
Yeah.
LMS, learning management.
yeah, learning management system.
Okay, I just wanted to get something that's like, we only have a 3-year contract, we're in year 2.
Oh, I
Next
see what you're
year,
saying.
different years,
I can find out.
and next year,
I can
different
find out.
years.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'll find out for you. That's a good question.
Or if
Oh.
we're, sorry.
No, go
The next
ahead.
question would be, is as we get back to normal, how much use of Canvas is happening
Sure,
in the schools?
sure. So,
Compared,
yeah.
The elementary school might be really using it, but then middle school's not, or whatever.
that's a great, so that could be codified in language too. I totally understand what you're saying. I cannot tell you the number of years.
Okay.
I don't think it was 2 or 3.
If it's 1 or 2, most contracts could say
Yeah,
both parties can agree to allow it to go another year
yeah,
by not canceling it. So we'll get the terms of that
Sure.
contract you've got. And look,
that's a great
whether
question.
And I think that leads to some of the other questions we had, because
Mhm.
it says at each site that has identified a need. So that means the site would be able to determine whether or not they need this supplement, or is it that it would be offered at every site? That's just the way the wording.
Well, it'd be my hope, it would be my understanding that whatever we do for one, we do for the other. We don't just, just like all the supplements, depending on what level you are, they're all offered at each site. And every school has one, is our understanding. So every school almost had 2, but we said that 1 would be fair enough. So that would be language, if you all want to adjust, that's fine. You could counter.
And then I think with what Pamela has mentioned is kind of the understanding that as these parents get used to something within middle school, and sometimes things change as they move on, they're used to a pattern or a way of finding information. And so the thought is, what we're wondering is, does this mean that the expectation is that everyone will be on Canvas? Because there were concerns by instructional staff, not all, but some, that the amount of time that it takes to manage Canvas on top of their other duties already. And so really it's kind of putting more on the workload of what they need to do in order to create that connectivity. And is it something that would be continuity wise through the grade levels as students graduate, that they anticipate this stuff? I think these are things that we need to,
So
if
let me
not
make,
through the MOU, at least through full book, consider
Okay.
what that looks like.
Okay.
Because if it's an added expectation, then how does that, with already time being such a concern, do we kind of carve out the time for that so that people have that?
so let me make sure I'm understanding. Your question then is everyone required to use Canvas on the instructional side?
That
Did I
is
hear is the question?
trying to figure out the expectation.
Okay. Because I think Jillian talked about that at the beginning of the year. That is
She
the expectation.
But the expectation in practice are. two
That's what I'm
different
saying. So
things.
if there is, We need to know who it is so I can narrow down, because the expectation is everyone should be using Canvas. There's no, I don't feel like
It
it.
should get easier as time.
Yeah, so I need to know if there are people who are just arbitrarily saying they're not going to do it. I need to find out what are the reasons why. Is it because the school is not supporting them? They don't feel comfortable? Like, what's going on for a
So on our side, we're asking if Canvas is going to be mandated or required, how much time, how much effort, how much stuff is going to be mandated?
Is it mandated for us to have a syllabus on it? Is it mandated for us to have a weekly
what are the requirements?
module
Okay,
every single day? Because I think that there is, you know, at high school level, when you have 120 teachers, each doing their own thing. And I mean,
What's the minimum?
yeah, I mean,
Required.
is a minimum requirement, or what are we looking at? You know, me personally, I can speak to my experience with Canvas. I'm seeing all my students every single day.
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't necessarily make sense for me to be posting things in multiple places, because when I started doing that at the beginning of the year, a lot more confusion was taking place
Okay.
of like, that I've already accessed, that I already get it done, because it's showing them a to-do list of things.
Right.
We did it in class, you know, or those kinds of things. When I work online or at TCC teaching classes there, where I don't ever see my students on Canvas, that makes a lot of sense. Because that's my
Right.
main point of contact. We'll learn face to face with them every day.
What if the person's not there? Doesn't it help that student who doesn't show up? to know
Not
what you're doing?
necessarily if they're not
Mm.
getting that
They don't have pointers.
Zoom instruction, maybe, they don't know, they don't have a lot of context for the assignment that's on Canvas,
Well,
if they're absent after a certain.
I know academic services, especially Susan Walden, started the online continuity
Mhm.
instruction, started sending out surveys. I know some department chairs and other individuals work with their different departments on answering some of those questions.
Mhm.
So I think we need to get some of the information
Okay.
that has already been collected through academic services and look through that. And that would perhaps answer some of your concerns and questions. Because the teachers have already provided, I know, some feedback already.
okay.
And Susan Walden would be the contact person for that.
So I'll reach out to Susan on behalf of the district to find out what has been discussed and determined and solidified, if anything. And then we can share that with you all. And then we can look to see potentially how that would affect. And it will also help us when we find out about the contracts. We can get that information.
Those details kind of rolled into the part where it says 2 weeks to enter grades, that kind of part, that section of the contract, I think, so everybody knows exactly what those expectations are. And, you know, it's in one spot and everyone can find it. So,
Okay.
and just as a final part, we've got a lot of folks that are using the website that has videos and how to do stuff. So I don't know if everyone knows about the Canvas website, instead of necessarily having to go ask somebody about.
They know, we send out
It's not
weekly,
me.
yeah,
Well, I know that the weekly comes out, but
yeah. You can't force, you can offer it, but you can't force people to.
so we'll transition to the salary piece, I guess, the teacher salary increase allocation. And we have some serious concerns.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I get it. Okay.
Go ahead.
We understand that there may be some timelines from elsewhere and like of trying to get things done and processed and move forward.
Just so you'll know, there is a timeline, but I already submitted saying we're in the process of negotiating. So I don't feel bound to turn anything in tomorrow based on it. So I already represented that on behalf of the district, we're still in the negotiation process.
Okay,
DOE did want to know by Friday of last week,
okay.
okay?
And that for clarity, that this is the salary proposal for 2012, 2022,
2012,
or 2021 and 2022 for this calendar school year. this is the money that we're gonna put in front of people to ratify
Yes,
from your perspective. So yeah.
from our perspective, what we shared at the table last week that we provided to you all, based on what Ms. Banks shared financially, what Leonard talked about, that is our offer to you all. We offered it, and I was thinking that you all would look at it, and like you said, there were some concerns you shared for the good of the order, which we understand, but that you all would come back and potentially ask something different or ask additional questions or whatever. So yes, that is our proposal.
So we won't necessarily respond to this until we get a chance to go through the AFR and do our own analysis of a couple of things. So that annual financial report will be real important for us to be able to respond to this.
Okay. Understood.
Yep. Is there, oh, Scott, you said the annual financial report, what else were you looking for? You said,
the supplement one, the ones that, because. when
I
we
can
had-
tell you for supplements, just, I would, because if not, I'll lose it. I apologize for cutting you off. Mr. Hanson has last year's, but prior to that, that computer no longer is in that area. He didn't have access to it. You asked for the last 3 years, so I'll have to speak to him. He's able to provide last year, but not prior to that. He did stop me today to share that. I will give you what he has.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So yes, so that was the AFR, the supplements. We shared the MOU for the sub pay. We do have for future sessions, and we know that the schedules are very packed as far as availability. But we know that we met during the day the last 2 times, even though we requested the afternoon, but we're gonna ask that we kind of look for the afternoon, not on Fridays.
So we have the 14th at 4:30. Okay.
And as I shared with that, that's a problem because that's our FEA.
That's right, that's right.
They were- we
So
were
what's the
telling
next
them
one after that? We have one after that.
There was none that was after that.
No, you asked for, we have some dates. to
Oh, you did?
offer.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I was just-
We also have the 27th of October. The 28th. If the 27th doesn't work, but the 28th has to be after 3 p.m.
After 3,
Yes.
and the 27th is at 4:30.
The 27th is open, but you lock it down as soon as possible.
So it is our hope that on both those dates, I know you said after 3, that based off of middle school schedules and stuff, we can do both at 4:30.
Well, let me tell you this, what doesn't work for us is to be back to back like that.
Yeah.
So we're offering one of those, and we'll offer a date further out because it doesn't,
Well, let's do
28th,
The 28th, all right.
okay,
which is a Thursday.
Okay, hang on.
Carly gave us these, okay.
I'm just looking at him. Sarasota virtually from 10 to 1. So the after, 4:30 would be good for me.
4:30.
4:30 it
Give
is.
me some breathing.
Yeah.
And it's our hope that through our discussions that we have on the 7th, that we'll have a better understanding on Article 7 and 8.
Yes.
As we look at to figure out exactly what we need to do to make it a little bit clearer for everybody else.
Okay, perfect.
Oh,
Can you offer him one other date after the 28th, or is there no other
Well,
date?
there's 2 dates, perhaps before the 28th. Well, 1 date,
Okay,
and it will be October 21st.
and what time, about what time?
The time is open.
When is, okay, now,
If we can do the 21st at 4:30, what is that date?
Yeah, that's good, but the 20th is our.
That is true.
And the 21st is our legislative.
We moved it to the 20th because
Oh,
the
that's
booking of the room was too full.
Okay.
So everything's on the 20th. 20th and 21st are gonna be a humdinger. So we'll make it work.
So you want the 21st?
If we can have it in the afternoon.
For
Fine, that's, I mean, I think I'm the only middle school one on here, and I have, so anything after 3:15, so I can get here by 3:15.
You wanna move it up to 3:30?
your call.
It's a
If we do 3:30, it'd be 3:30 to 5:30 and 4:30 to 6:30.
3:30 to 5:30, perfect.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm understanding. So we have 2 dates, October 21st from 3:30 to 5:30 and October 28th, 4:30 to 6:30. Okay. And then that means we will not require subs. What you are in need of, LCTA, is for us to respond to the information regarding supplements to you from Scott Hansen, and you'd like the annual financial report. Okay. And
And the information from Jillian on the
Online.
online stuff.
I was going to that. I was trying to flip over. I was going back. Just give me a second.
AFR is.
Yeah.
Should have been- it should be
Yeah,
on.
AFR is online, but I will get that information. We also wanted to know the contract years for Canvas and potentially what's being mandated as the responsibility to be housed on campus, et cetera, from feedback from Susan Walden that she's gotten from teachers for the good of the order so that we can all be on the same page. So we'll get that information to you all. You offered us an MOU for the sub. So as you know, and Scott, you shared it, that this will have to go before executive session. And then you'll potentially offer us a counter on the money once you have the report so you can make a determination for your organization. Okay. So then we come together then on the 21st at 3:30.
Kim, as far as the information for Jillian and the supplements,
Mhm.
for us to be able to respond on the 21st, is it possible to get it 7 days before that, October 14th? Is that too?
Yes, yes, yes.
What I'm trying to do is just at least give dates certain so that we know that things are coming in and then we can plan appropriately.
Yeah,
Give
us
them
too.
time.
Got it so noted. Okay.
And I guess when it comes to full book, and I know that I understand the financial part. We have serious concerns about full book, given the money status. Because when it comes down to it, there are certain things that, in terms of the language, there's always language you come up with that doesn't cost money. But when we have analyzed and asked questions of people, it comes down to the money part. So I don't know if we need to do, if there's, after we go through the AFR, we have our conversation, if we do something similar to last year, where we meet in a smaller group to kind of figure out if and how there is a possible game plan. So it's not something that we're wasting each other's time and we're here kind of thing, like nuts and bolts. Can we move the needle on anything? And these are the priorities of our organization on the things that we'd like to move. Because I think part of what has happened in the past, whether it was the 10% increase to supplements, or it's the MOU for the campus person or something, and we sit down and we have those conversations about little blips of money without looking at the whole entire key, that I know we're trying to do some good things where we can, but when it comes down to ratification and what we're trying to do for the whole group, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. Not that you're not, that's not what we're saying. It's just that everything we can to make sure that we're communicating that the efforts are being made on all sides.
Mhm.
That there are limited resources issues that we're dealing with, and that we continue from now until sessions ends to try and do something positive to make that a possibility. So I'll just offer that to say, if it comes to a financial thing, we will do it after we do the AFR and our internal conversation, our smaller conversations. Managing expectations is going to be a big thing for everybody. And if we come out with $31, which we haven't shared with anybody, there's going to be a lot of frustration that's going to be vocalized.
I would share, this is a terrible year for Leon County School Boards. I think there should be a workshop on the impact of these Hope scholarships, McKay, and these other scholarships that everybody's taking from the district and the impact on the district. So people are going to have to realize this is a tough time, and also FTE wise. Now we'll know in October what the real FTE is, but according to Kim, we're in trouble.
Well, and there's a tremendous amount of stress for everybody right now to count all the FTEs. I know that people are working really overtime to make sure everything is accounted for, because it's the basis of our ability to make everything work.
And I think Kim is saying even with good FTE, this scholarship issue hit us so bad, it's going to be a struggle. So that's where we have to share the information, is because a lot of people don't understand why it went up so much. It took away our money. A lot of private school kids took away our money.
Well, with the why and what is, if it's left at just why and what is, there's going to be a lot of frustration.
Oh, there will be.
There's not a plan to say, here's what we are planning to do. This is what we're trying to do. This is how you can help. It's going to be very important to communicate that part so that people have a direction to put their frustration. Because the other option is that we cannibalize ourselves rather than have a plan to move forward.
Yeah.
May I ask what percentages of scholarship versus the scholarships that we're losing?
I know, remember Leonard, she said 1,000 Hope.
I think she mentioned about $6 million change, $6 million difference.
That was like us four, so it cost
That was for the
Yeah.
Hope, right?
It's
All of
Hope.
They combined them all. There's no longer like a separate, I don't think there's a
They're
separate,
joining McKay into
they
Hope.
call them all into one group.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not only Hope, where you're here and something happens, you want to leave, like say you have a problem with your mask, you immediately leave. There's this is just my raw understanding from everywhere I go, because this is a big issue in several districts. If you are sitting in a private school and never sat in Leon County public school, you can now apply for a full FTE amount that we did not budget for. So my little Nassau, I don't say little, they're not that little, but Nassau County 3 years ago was 600 grand, and they could budget that, and it was pretty consistent. Went to 1.9 million, and then this year it's probably 3 plus. Took away all of our, for Nassau, that's money for everyone. That's enough money for us to fix compression, fix the $10, $11, $12 an hour cutting problem. It was enough for everybody. Not a budgeting issue. It just kind of happened through session, and we don't know who is applying. I think they apply at DOE, and the
They
DOE
do.
tells us, by the way, we have 200 successful applicants.
They don't tell you it's based on the whole or the case.
They do.
They do.
They do.
They
Can we
do.
find out how much is the paid scholarship and
What the
schools those
potential
kids were
loss is.
zoned for, and
Okay, so let me just share this. You have a lot of questions, Patty, and I'm gonna tell you, we've tried. If they do it through a third party entity, that the DOE is not responsible for being able to provide the information. It's called Step Up. The Step Up for Kids organization is the one that's kind of keeping up with that data. So when we reached out to say, when we reached out to say, hey, how many, like, where, these kids are zoned for what, like, so we could do, because I think a couple years ago, we talked about a mass campaign of selling who we are as schools, like, right, the greatness of our schools. But we could never get the information. Then we found out this year that it's going through Step Up, which is a third-party entity. And in years past, McKay and Hope were separated, but now they've combined them. And so that there's not gonna be differentiation. And so Kim had told us there's 1,000 scholarships for Hope. And then McKay was whatever plus, and so it ended up, like Brett just said, they budgeted originally 4 million, and then they had to budget an additional, well, we didn't budget for additional 6. So what happened was they sent this information out after they had submitted the budget to the, so they couldn't make amendments or changes to kind of to make way. But we've tried to get information from them. If you all want to try to go through Step Up.
But we could
For
figure
kids-
out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but couldn't we figure out what these kids have left the county?
Well, to be honest with you, that's a personal, see, you're talking about kids' names,
No, but.
just
we
the
don't
numbers.
know.
I know, but I'm just saying that would be, yeah.
I mean, there's certain schools that have a higher population of Exodus ESC kids than other schools. Maybe we can be proactive and address why they're leaving.
Mhm.
You know, I understand the Hope Scholarship is kind of lost, but the McKay Scholarship is based on a lot of variables that can be proactively changed in our school system
Right.
versus a reactive change. Like kids are using the McKay Scholarship because their home zone schools, ESC programs may not be meeting the needs by the spirit of the letter.
Yeah, this, I don't think this is an AK issue.
No,
It's the other issue of, for the first time, you don't have to be in a public school and something happened like bullying or harassment, and then you leave.
Mhm.
So it's someone sitting in a private school saying, I would like my coupon, I'm simplifying, I would like my coupon from you to allot to my tuition. Not even directly to us, but
Mhm.
we'll get you the change. The change is just, it's ridiculous. I don't know that, it was, well, it wasn't planned for by anyone. Because you don't know who's gonna ask and who's not, and how well organized.
It was planned for by some people.
Yeah, it's planned by the legislature, but it wasn't, we don't know how
Yeah.
well oiled the parents are to ask, because they have to
Right.
jump through hoops.
Mhm.
And some districts, they did a pretty good job. Some districts, the private schools are already full, so there's not even an issue.
Yeah.
Some districts, the private schools already had mass, so there's
Mhm.
nowhere to go.
But but it's been well advertised.
Pardon?
It's been well advertised.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think in general, the perception is that we can all sit around in this room and maybe amongst our peers and explain how the money disappeared, right, where it went. But the people that it's impacting, the teachers, support staff, everybody else, can conceptually understand why that's happening. But at the same time, it's like, that's not my fault.
Right. No, it doesn't mean they'll accept it,
Yeah,
They won't.
Right.
but they'll feel
Yeah.
ripped off, and I get it.
Yeah, and so I don't know.
There's no, it's a difficult year, and you've had difficult years in the past where you cannot educate with a simple 2-3 slide PowerPoint school board finance law, and the Florida legislature's change weekly, feels like. So it's going to be a heavy lift on a good year to explain board finances. Now, explain this external factor, it's very possible. I mean, they're educators. We can't educate. They will never, I believe, and I wouldn't, accept something hit our budget and took it away. So they're going to see, well, there was a pool built 2 years ago. Why do we have that money? They go to some other extraneous construction and want that money.
Like a floor being put in, like, and that's what people focus on rather than.
Safety and security
money.
dollars. Well, let's use that.
Mhm.
Or let's use the American Rescue Plan and rescue our teachers. Heard that. Makes sense to me. There's limits of what we can and cannot do. It will take time. And I do think we have to, we have to work this out in workshops. It would be great if people attended workshops like they attend the mask meeting. They don't. the mask got everybody excited.
Well, I know you have a wonderful PR person. How about a PR campaign? I mean, that's their jam.
Well, it'd be a PR campaign of bad news. I'm
And
not,
that's
I'm
why-
not saying that facetiously.
No,
It's informative and beneficial to a lot of teachers who are really on the verge of saying, I'm done, I quit. My husband.
We could collaboratively come up with a messaging
Yes.
of where we were. For,
Mhm.
I think it looks good for 3 years. I've always liked 3 years. I don't like 1 year comparison. 3-year comparison, and you show that one column of McKay and this and that, and then to the next year, and then the astronomical pie chart. And that would help. I think it helps people understand, not accept, but understand what the problem is. And once you understand what the problem is, then we can start talking about why we're not offering what we're offering.
And I think that's where the 20th, I'm sorry.
I just, was there a date timeline, last year when they said that we had to have the 47,500 as a minimum salary, right, and that was like a goal by the governor? Was there ever a date timeline, like the minimum wage needed to be raised to $15 by
No.
2022?
That was,
That's for non, you're exempt.
that was in the.
No, I know, I'm just,
Okay.
I'm just curious. if
Yeah,
like,
that
there
was
a
in
hard
the-
timeline on that.
Oh, like there was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Got it.
thought,
Okay.
we were home, we're close to home, not true in the Panhandle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
South-
we know.
South Florida, you're home, you're close to home.
Yes.
But it's, for every, the way they're gonna fund it now is not directly. For every dollar we give a grandfather person on salaries, because we give $1.50 to brand new minimum person to get that to 47.5. So it's up to us to get that to 47.5 with the funding they don't give us.
And there's no deadline for when
No.
we get to the 47.5.
no.
Uh,
And with the percentages on how they limit that we use it. You can't treat everybody the same. Because
They
those who are
originally
not in the
did that.
classroom every day are not considered to be. All right, by their definition.
One thought, just to add, when we're talking about how to have these discussions with everybody, all people in working, and have honest and frank discussions about where the budget is at, and we're gonna review that and continue our discussions with you guys. Like Patty alluded to, I think something to keep in mind from the teacher perspective and just the employee perspective, I think after the pandemic happened, and we're still in it, of course, but the big hit of it, we can see nationally that the workers' approach to work is very different now. There still are staffing shortages everywhere now. It's not
Right.
just in schools.
No, it's everywhere.
People, I think, have realized like what's important to me in life. And maybe they're choosing not to work in certain situations because who knows what's gonna happen tomorrow, right? We don't know. So I think there's everyone has a personal reason for their decisions, obviously. But I think that it's important for us to keep in mind kind of the societal shift that seems to have happened for people and for workers, like how we're thinking about our places of employment and what makes it worth it to us to be there.
We can't hire either. It's, our firm can't hire. It's possible. A legal secretary now is almost a dirty word for a younger person. We don't want to be a type. It's not a typist, much more than typist. We don't want to be a typist. You can't find them. And then lawyers are also, I gave you the best 14 months of my life, is their new exit interview. And they're mobile like there's no tomorrow. Used to be 25 years, gold watch, and you do well.
Yeah.
They,
I think
they
that's
get
interesting.
headhunted every day because of priorities. You hear the word work-life balance.
Mhm.
That means remote, a couple days a week,
Yeah,
It could mean, Or I mean, they- for different fields, right? It means different
everything
things,
differently,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I think-
society has changed.
yeah. You're right about that.
And expectations change. It's difficult to hire. All of our positions now, we can't just say, gee, bus drivers are difficult. Everybody knows that. It's all,
Mhm.
I mean, there's help one. Everywhere I go, every town I go, I see some places help one is $17 an hour. I'm like, in a small old town.
And they still can't fill it.
No, they keep going by every month.
Yeah, we just had, I just had a friend who left being a secretary for Leon County Schools to go work at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Making more benefits better.
Yeah.
Kind of goes,
Mhm.
oh. Yeah, so
And
I
then we
think
have real pressure with Amazon. Amazon.
Fulfillment
coming
center coming.
With a bajillion jobs, and they did that in Nassau County. They took a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Thinking about like recruitment and retention support.
It is. And
And-
we
and
know it. We
Bring
have,
this up because it really does impact us.
I know.
Our burden.
it's not only charter
Mm-mm.
schools, it's society has literally changed.
But I
It
beg the
made a
difference, I think
challenge
it's
for
everybody,
HR.
Kim. It affects
Right,
everybody.
but look, if we can't hire paras, and we can't hire behavior specialists, and we can't hire someone to take care of, I mean, it really does put the impact back on the teacher of expectation to get everything done.
Oh, I see what you're
including
saying.
the class.
Just
Yeah.
like we've had the conversation, Wallace even said earlier today, that more people are taking on more and more responsibilities because there's less and less people to do the work. And so it's just becoming that much more. And as it becomes less sustainable, then that turnover happens. And our concern, as yours is the continuity, not just of instruction, but the people that are in place. Because for every person that leaves, now I've got to rehire somebody. I got to train that person. I've got to give them context of how we got where we are, why we do what we do. And those things are the things that really are having more of a negative effect right now, because the turnover. And I, as a veteran teacher, now I'm like, okay, this is how you get on campus. This is what you're now coaching up your colleagues. It's an additional responsibility, and it's becoming very overwhelming. Which brings me to the point of, in as open of a forum as possible with a shared purpose. If the information that we're talking about now, in some way we can develop whatever that looks like in terms of getting the information out and share and work with each other to do it. Not just LCTA, but 1010, less, but all of our groups with our administrators, PTAs, all that kind of stuff. And if we're trying to do ours on October 30th over at the Turnbull Center, again, to just begin that piece based off of the survey that we started. There's the things that we kind of want to do with ESSER, but really, guess what? That's a sidecar. Here's what's really going on with budgets. This is what's really going on. And then giving people something to do to change it. Because I know, as Leonard said, we don't want to do a campaign of bad news. And then be like, see you.
Yeah, it's what can you do? It's what can you physically do, right?
Yeah.
That's what people want to know. I think that's what Patty's alluding to.
Mhm.
If people really understood this, then they would not, like, they'd reach out, they'd start letter writing campaigns, they'd start doing, what can we physically do? And I hear what you're saying, especially when I pull up to Zaxby's on a traditional night after going to football practice and say, I'd like to order, oh, we have no chicken, we have no dough, we have no so-and-so, the truck didn't get here. So then I drive to the second Zaxby's, oh, we're out of ice, we can't, and then I get the Chick-fil-A and we don't have the batter to make the fried chicken. I mean, my God, in one night.
Just don't
So
go
I'm
to
just saying,
McDonald's.
all
They'll
these
never
places
stop
Telling
it.
you to eat it.
They cannot find people to bring the trucks, to bring the, I mean, I've been to Subway and they're like, I sent my wife with the U-Haul to go pick up our, like, they're really struggling with truck drivers and things. And then I think about my sister who's a millennial, and she's like, you all go in? I cannot imagine, like, in her head, being 38, like, she's like, what?
I do
We're in
the
a
app,
pandemic,
my
right.
food's waiting for me when I get there.
But there are societal changes, like for me. And that's why I think a lot of times I tend to be like, are you kidding me? There are people dying. Like my whole shift, I'm not gonna sweat the small stuff. I mean, there's bigger issues. So we talk about societal changes, there are, but I think what I hear you all saying is, let's work together to give people reason to take action. And what does that action jointly look like?
Inviting you.
Easier giant pills to swallow when you understand, like, why it's happening. It's easier.
Yeah.
pills to swallow than to,
We are formally inviting you and your crew and your whole entire.
October 30th at the Turnbull.
October 20th.
20th.
It's the
Yes,
20th.
the
it's on
20th at the
Wednesday.
Turnbull.
And so
It's gonna be a community conversation. We are inviting our legislators, we are inviting our community groups, the realtors, group, we're inviting
Anybody
homeowner
you
association,
know that cares,
anybody
please
that
express.
has an interest in making sure that we stabilize our schools and we make sure that we get our message out of, yeah, because it's gonna spend, look how much money they're getting and how come they're not doing anything. Well, this is what it's limited to. This is what we can do. Where can we improve?
Okay.
And so it'll be a very open, positive conversation.
I do have one quick question. It was a previous, I was going back trying to find when we brought it up about the computers.
Computer.
Yeah,
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks. We're having a slight problem, and I know he was shaking his head like maybe he has an idea of what I'm gonna say. We have a huge problem, and it's going to trickle and it's going to explode, because that's why I'm asking how much Canvas, how much this. Our Chromebooks are getting destroyed, and they're getting destroyed a lot faster than they can come back.
Okay.
And we're having where it's, I didn't know this. If you all want TVs, you better go buy them now, because there are not gonna be any new LCD screen TVs come Christmas time when you think you can get them, when
Why?
they're cheap.
For the chips.
The LCD there's a shortage on the
Yeah.
LCD.
Oh, sorry. Okay, back to
Yeah.
COVID. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
No, and it's all the
So-
microchips and everything.
The microchips, the manufacturing, the
Yeah.
delay, so. the
Okay.
TGI company we have, TIG, whatever company we have, that is supposed to fix our Chromebooks is backlogged tremendously.
Okay.
And there are no Chromebooks to give out.
Okay.
And the chargers
So-
that are even there. that have
So
been
how
in
many-
there
So
are now
we
gone.
brought up the whole Canvas thing.
So I
We
will
can't
look
expect
into
to be
that. I don't know how
using
many
something that we don't have access. The kids don't have access.
Oh,
Okay.
We
come
don't
on.
have it. There's a
All right.
delay.
All right. We have to research that. This is my first time.
Yes, I'm telling you, it started happening a couple weeks ago. I'm in middle school, but also my daughter's school. And we came in, if you crack a screen, they have it back maybe a week later. You could get, they'll give you a loaner, you get it. But now they're out of loaners to hand the kids that have the cracked screens.
Okay.
And then apparently now it's a year old, the batteries are starting to go. I didn't know this either. The batteries are starting to go. They're not holding a charge. And I guess there's a shortage of batteries too. Laptops.
Manufacturer.